Welcome back to Weather Nation as we continue our coverage of a major winter storm moving across New England now, coming out of the southeastern states, actually dumping snow as far south as the northern Gulf Coast actually during the day yesterday, and now moving up through New England as a nor'easter type storm that we often talk about when you set up a low pressure center. And it does what we call bombing out. It deepens as low pressure and then brings on lots of moisture into cold air that's already sitting there across New England, dumping massive amounts of snow from the Delmarva northward through the day today. Now beginning to pull out and actually seeing some progress to the east and to the northeast away from New York City. I think the worst of the snow has passed out of Philadelphia now for sure. New York City, Long Island beginning to taper off from west to east across Long Island. Even some breaks beginning to show up there, so maybe another inch or two of snow. Still some heavier amounts of snow coming into the Boston area because it's still coming in from the north at the moment, and now plenty of moisture up along I-95 as you get further and further up into Maine from the southwest to the north and to the east. Some of this moisture is just now beginning to come onshore actually, and it's going to be a pretty good fetch that continues along I-95 there in the eastern sections of Maine. So still a major player of winter weather here. Some strong winds going to continue, and we'll also see some really cold temperatures, and there's some pets. Now, they got to go outside, obviously, for certain reasons, but maybe not as long as the exposure you're thinking about. We've got some tips for you. Here's Steve with somebody who knows all about it.
Yeah, we have Aubyn Royall from one of the state directors with the Humane Society of the United States. Aubyn, thank you for your time. This time of the year, when we're dealing with bitter cold, dangerous cold, and snowstorms, is there that greater danger for our furry friend?
There really is a great danger for them. The best thing to do is just keep your companion animals indoors in weather like this. You know, you see those dogs playing in the snow and they're having a great time, but you really want to limit that time outside. And in the case of dogs with really short hair or really small or skinny dogs, they probably don't want to be spending much time outside at all. It just can become a dangerous situation very quickly. They can get hypothermia. Also, their paws and nose and ears are at risk for frostbite, so it can be dangerous.
And we're looking at wind chills across parts of the Northeast tomorrow through the weekend to be into the teens, 20s, even 30s below zero. So some very dangerous stuff to us as humans with bare skin. If someone happens to see an animal that they're concerned about, what do you advise them to do about that?
Definitely contact animal control right away. If you don't know that number, you can find it online, or you can even call the police non-emergency line to get that information. You know, even if there isn't snow and sleet, the wind chill can still cause death and hypothermia. So really, if you see something that looks wrong and looks off, just go ahead and make that phone call. It could make the difference between life and death for that animal.
Now, are there some signs, and apologize if you had already mentioned this little tidbit, are there signs that we should look for with our individual pets if they're starting to feel some of the effects of the cold weather?
You know, shivering and shaking. If a dog is outside and it's curled up and it's trying to make itself as small as possible, what it's trying to do is kind of recycle and reuse some of its own body heat. So you're definitely going to want to go ahead and bring that dog inside right away. But really, you know, in single-digit temperatures and in temperatures in the teens, if you see a dog outside for any extended period of time, you know, you could definitely be putting it at risk for hypothermia. If you need to walk your dog, you know, I would try to keep those walks fairly short. For short-haired dogs and medium-haired dogs, you know, they're often more comfortable if they're wearing a little fleece jacket or a sweater or some kind. Another good thing is that when you bring your dog inside from walking it, you're going to want to wipe those paws off. Some of that snow melt that we put on the ground can be irritating and even potentially harmful if they were to ingest it when they lick their paws. So just some things to look out for.
Okay, and that's Aubyn Royall from the Humane Society of the United States, one of the state directors. Thank you so much for your time. Good tips there. We always think about ourselves, but we always have to remember our friends as well. Viper radar, one more look at it right here. You can see that storm system really continues to churn across the Gulf of Maine. It's a very strong storm with a lot of wind as well. And the concern tonight will be the threat of isolated power outages and along with that, any loss of electricity or source of heat. Temperatures are going to be into the teens and single digits and wind chills below zero. So remember the pets, but also remember your friendly neighbor. Check in on them, make sure they're all right. We're Weather Nation. We're just getting started here with this coverage for tonight of the winter storm. We have the timeline and forecast when conditions will improve next.